Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy,
And I'm Rachel,
and we are the
the
Civic
Civic
Bitchslap.
Bitchslap.
We're so glad to have you here. And we began our show because with the events of the last couple of years, and especially the last election cycle, people have been asking what they can do to help get government back on a leash. We both have a little bit of experience in that, and we wanted to entertain you and fill you in on how you can get involved as well.
And I think, in addition to experience, we also have like a different perspective um, on how to get involved efficiently and effectively. And I think that's why probably both you and I, especially like right around the election, both of our phones were like ringing off the hook
Yeah, nonstop.
constantly,
Mm-hmm.
nonstop.
Yep.
We saw a lot of people just feeling like demoralized.
A lot of panic, a lot
Mhm.
of, I still have friends who are very fearful that they're going to end up in the gulag sort of thing. Yep. And that place of being desperate and that sense of despair doesn't do any of us any good. So we have a lot of insight to offer on how you can get involved effectively and really make a difference.
Right. And I think one thing that we hear a lot is people are like, well, I have tried to get involved, or all hope is lost and they really don't think there's any way to get involved. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. I mean, something that you hear people say all the time of late is, my vote is never gonna count again, so why should I even bother? And don't do that. You're falling right into their trap.
right. And I think one of the things that's very like, at least from my perspective, I think that you're going to agree with this, but a lot of people, they'll go out and vote, right? They'll be actively participate in that. They might go to like a meeting here or there. They'll go to like a rally or an event, and they expend like a lot of energy doing these things and attending events that really don't have
Yeah, a
a
lot of
whole lot of value. Not to
Yep.
say that you shouldn't, but I think I get like so aggravated because I'm like, oh, like the time and energy and money you spent to like go to that. If you took all of that and instead went and like kind of focused it a little bit in a different direction, like literally expending the same amount of energy, you could have results in something else.
Yeah, and I think another reason for the show is that by design, we have been taught things that aren't necessarily true, and one of the biggest pet peeves for both of us is there are three co-equal branches of government. So that is not
Yeah.
true at all. And
No.
we will definitely be getting into that, and that your vote is your civic responsibility and nothing more. And that is not the design of a republic, and that's what we are.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. Literally, there's like campaigns. All the celebrities, you can't get on any social media without like vote, 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 vote. Make a plan and vote, vote. Have you vote? I mean, everything is always about vote because, and so I mean, it is like indoctrination. They want people to believe like, oh, once you've gone and voted, you have literally engaged in like the most important thing. And then, oh, good job. I'm gonna pat you on the back. Good
Yay.
job, you voted. Please now go home.
So, what we're interested in helping our viewers and our audience to do is to have grand influence over a lot of votes, and not just during an election, but during a
Right.
committee hearing, during the passage or blockage of a piece of legislation, or any number of things along those lines. So, wielding your civic authority and growing your influence is what we're here to help you learn how to do.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we can get into later kind of a little bit of like our backgrounds and like experiences, and we might share some things here and there about like how it is that, we've come to have this perspective, and different things we've engaged in, different, projects we've done, and we've worked on things at all different levels, local, state, federal.
Yep.
But in a nutshell, I do think it's important to share briefly, kind of like the overview of where we got this viewpoint and how we feel about engaging with elected officials. And do we want to tell the story of Eliza Powell really quick?
Yes, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Start.
So bear with me on this story, but Eliza Powell, she and her husband, they lived in Philadelphia pre-founding. And I believe, did he used to be the mayor?
I
Is
can't
that what it
remember.
was?
I
I
don't.
believe he was the mayor, possibly the last mayor under the crown. At any rate, they had a boarding house that they ran in Philadelphia, and they knew a lot of the founding fathers. I mean, so this is back in the late 1700s. Different people would come and visit their house.
And
She was,
stayed there. A lot of the founders stayed
yeah,
there as they were drafting the Constitution.
yeah. And keep in mind, this is so, this is late 1700s. She's a woman, no voting rights, no property rights. But the most important story is when George Washington came and stayed at her house right before he made his speech announcing that he was going to run for president a second time. And history tells us that he actually was not going to do that. He did not want to run a second term. And she pinned a letter to him and had it delivered to him, I believe, under the door, basically telling him what was going to happen if he did not run again. And you were going to have, this rift between the Federalists and anti-Federalists. And she kind of laid everything out for him.
One of the
And
other things that she said in that letter that I think is really powerful is, if you decide not to run for a second term, the monarchy will have considered the American experiment a failure.
yes, that's right. I had forgotten about that, but she did include that and basically implored him to run again. And the next day, when he went and gave his speech, he did not give the prepared speech that he had written where he was not going to run again. He gave an off the cuff speech announcing he was running again based on the letter that she had written him. And this ties into, and how powerful is that, right? Like a woman influenced him because of a relationship that they had, like a mutual respected relationship. She was able to wield incredible power that has changed the entire trajectory of the world by that happening. And what's interesting is that we've all heard the phrase "a republic if you can keep it," and sometimes people will say that, and you'll even hear it from political influencers or people, and conservative media heads will say, will reference that saying. Some of them will even go a step farther and say, oh, someone shouted from the gallows, "What did you give us?" And Benjamin Franklin responds, "Oh, a republic if you can keep it." And it's just,
it's been so convoluted and so
yes,
misrepresented, that entire story. And it's really amazing to me when people who want to limit the voices of other people use that story to bolster their argument, which we saw an awful lot of in the aftermath of Election Day in November 2020. So,
yeah.
and one of the words that's taken out of that phrase so much that we don't use it anymore is madam. A republic, madam, if you can keep it. And it was so significant because, as Rachel was saying, women could not vote. They couldn't own property. I mean, she was, quasi business owner with her husband, but she could not own a business. And here she had influence with, even then, the leader of the free world.
Yes. Yeah. It was a conversation between two people, right? Like she's asking Benjamin Franklin and he's saying directly to her, "It's a republic, madam, if you, her individually, can keep it." And I feel like that's such a significant part of history that is not taught. And I feel like it can help frame, I mean, even if you just think back on that, like how powerful is that?
It's incredible.
It's incredibly powerful. And there are so many examples throughout history where people did wield incredible power. And it wasn't because, oh, they went and voted,
or they had the most money, or they had the biggest social media following. They had relationships that they fostered that were very important, and they protected those, and they did everything they could to keep them intact.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So you're going to hear us.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good.
This just brings up a thought. I recently met a woman who came to the United States from communist China, and she has such gratitude for freedom, and she's not yet a citizen. And every time I hear her talk about things, she has to preface it and say, "I can't vote, I only have a green card." And she feels like her authority and her actions and what she can execute on is limited. And so I shared with her the Mrs. Powell story. And
Oh,
she's like,
that's so
I have to go
awesome.
write this down. I have to go study this. I'm going to be Mrs. Powell. So,
Oh my
it was
gosh.
really touching to me. And it like really moved me because I thought there's so many people who are so easily led to believe they can't have any authority, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. And it is the message from our political opposition. And we want you to stop repeating that to yourselves immediately.
Yes. And also too, you made me think of something. I think there are those that do have relationships with their elected officials, and they feel like, but I already know all these people, and like they still are doing crappy things. And I think we're also going to dive into some ways that you can maybe even change your perspective on the relationship that you already have, and how to use other tools to help you influence those relationships
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So Rachel and I met early, well, I think maybe 2010.
No, no,
No,
no. Let me
later
think
than
about
that.
this. 13.
2013. Yeah, we met at a
Yeah.
large political gathering, and
Oh yeah.
years later, we came to work together on a couple of political things, including a handful of campaigns and pushing issues and all sorts of things. And
Yep.
everybody's got that one friend that you've met that just clicked with, and it just goes from there. So, and I bring that up because the best way to be most effective in the political arena is by working with people who you like, people who you have
Right.
things in common with, people who you can count on to do things together, and who, if you ask them to do something and they say I'm on it, you don't ever have to ask them again. They're going to do what they said.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also, and Stacey, we don't even live in the same state. We're like across the country from each other now.
Yep.
So, but yeah, you can surround yourself. It's so important. Like, a lot of this you can do some things on your own, but a lot of this takes a team. It doesn't even have to be a big team, but yeah, it can be a friend, it could be your neighbor, it could be someone you work with, a family member. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
find
it could
people
be
that you
another
jive with.
parent at your kid's school. I mean, there's
Yeah.
endless opportunities. Somebody you go to church with. There are a lot of like-minded people, and I think on the other side of people feeling so just such despair right now because of what's going on, I see mass opportunity for our side that has
Oh my
never
goodness.
existed in my lifetime.
Oh
I think we
yeah.
have such huge opportunity to capture a lot right now.
Oh, in my head, just some things that pop into mind. I'm like, holy cow, everything from like election integrity, from like free speech, protecting, people from, from having their voices silenced and being canceled. There's so many things right now that I think a lot of people look at it and go, it's insurmountable. Like, how do we overcome big tech? How do we overcome these things? How do we overcome fraud? And I'm sitting here going like, do you know how many pieces of legislation like you could help develop and push in your state or wherever, and utilize that as a tool to figure out who's really working for the people and against the people? Like, such an opportunity.
Yeah.
Such an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and really the nature of what we're here to do is be entertaining as well as inspiring you to get involved in your local area, because it's easy to get distracted with what's going on the television and on federal issues and national news, but developing things in your own backyard is probably the most important thing of all. And everybody who holds federal office was probably once a county council member, a state house rep, or senator.
yep. Yeah, no, exactly. And one of the things too, I want to invite them obviously to keep listening to us. And also we have an exciting, I don't know what you call it, like a segment, but something we're going to be doing weekly called Circle Back Mondays. So stay tuned. But we're going to have a lot of fun. Like Stacey said, we're hoping to entertain you, and that you want to come back and listen. We'll of course be talking about things that are going on like currently in the news cycle, making fun of a lot of things and people, because politics can be funny.
It's so fun. And I think that's one of the elements that we bring that a lot of people don't bring. And it's easy to get upset and feel deflated. But I think there's so much entertainment going on in the election or in the political news space right now.
Oh yeah, it's nonstop. Like, you can't make this crap up half the time. So awesome. Well, until next time, everybody.
Thanks so much. And we'll see you on our next episode.
All right. Bye.
Bye.